Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. So today we're going to take a look at the last year for the 3rd gen Tacoma. This is a 2023 TRD Sport. Huge shout out to Carolina Auto Direct for providing this pickup for me today. Definitely take a look at their website. They have a huge selection of pretty much brand new inventory. That link is down in the description. So this 2023 is finished off in blue crushed metallic. They have a starting MSRP right around $35,000. And powering the Tacoma is the naturally aspirated 3.5 liter V6 paired to the 6-speed automatic transmission that pumps out 278 horsepower, 265 pound-feet of torque. That power is primarily sent to the rear wheels. However, this Sport has the 4-wheel drive system as well. It weighs in right around 4,500 pounds. 0 to 60 is 6.5 seconds. It has a top speed of 113 miles an hour. It also has a fuel capacity of 21.1 gallons. You'll expect to see around 18 miles per gallon in the city, 22 out on the highway. This also has a wheelbase of 127.4 inches. Its overall length is 212.3 for the short bed. This has a width of 75.2, a height of 70.6, and its ground clearance measures in at 9.4 inches. As we move on to the exterior styling now for this TRD Sport, the biggest difference that you'll see compared to the rest of the trim levels, aside from the TRD Pro, is the hood scoop up front. So this is only on the Sport and the Pro. It is not functional. It would be cool to see it be functional, but there's very nice lines that come off of that. And I know the hood scoop is a big aesthetic in the Tacoma community. Having the hood scoop on the hood definitely gives it that cool factor. Now for the giant grille, it's finished off in a gray trim with plenty of cutouts to provide cooling. We have the front sensor right in the middle. This gets LED headlights, DRLs, and turn signals. I love that wraparound horseshoe design for the turn signal and the DRL. This also has LED fog lights in the lower section of the bumper. The TRD Sport also gets the body-colored front bumper valance. On some of the other trim levels, that is just plastic. There is a lower air dam tow hook on one side, along with some aerodynamic fins. Another cutout in that lower section too. So it gives it a really nice clean look, especially paired with this blue. Now the TRD Sport also gets the body colored fender flares. This has a set of 17-inch wheels with that two-tone design to them. Mud flaps are on this model. There's also the steel, what I'll call sliders / the side steps. This is mainly going to be that step to enter and exit. You cannot take the steps off, so you can't really use it as a slider, but it could still act like that if you really needed it to. This model also has the blacked out Tacoma badges. We have the body colored mirrors with the turn signal, more gloss black in between the window trim there, and then a really distinctive line in that lower side skirt. It actually works its way to the back side of the bed, so ties in nicely. If you opt for the 6-foot bed, you get a little bit of that in front of the fender flare, so you get that extra space, the back of the cab in front of the bed space there. And it has a really nice look with the short bed. Personally, I do like the shorter bed. We also have the side exit exhaust and then some arches just above the fender flares with that TRD 4x4 Sport badge. Now for the rear backup camera, this model has aftermarket inlays for a Tacoma stamped in the lower section there. We have LED taillights, backup camera. This is even capable of towing right around 6,400 pounds. It has a payload capacity of 1,500, so it's a pretty capable mid-size truck. Realistically, I would say 45 to 5,000 pounds is going to be adequate for this truck, but it can tow more if you need it to. Now it also has the soft opening tailgate. We don't have a spray and bed liner, but it still has the protection that you need. A little bit of a storage bin on that passenger side, along with the 3-prong outlet. There's also channels with the tie-down hooks, so you can safely secure items. There's even some in the lower section and at the front of the bed. For the 5-foot bed, it definitely has plenty of space. I owned a Tacoma with a 5-foot bed. I didn't have any issues with hauling dirt bikes, motorcycles, anything that I needed, even moving. It was definitely good. But if you need that 6-foot bed, it is an option. Now for the interior on this model, we have a pretty simple door panel, nice gray trim surrounding the window control. We have a speaker, a lot of storage space in the lower section, and then the release handle. And then for this model, it gets the 2-tone cloth seats, which give it a really nice look. And what I love about the back of the Tacoma is that it's very versatile. You can flip up the bottoms of these seats, and you have a storage bin on the driver's side. On the passenger side, you have a little bit of extra storage, but that is where the spare tire and all of those kits are. Now what you can also do is when you remove the headrest, you can place them in these two areas here and actually fold this seat flat. So it will make its way to the bottom there where you have this plastic backing. So with both of these flat, that gives you even more storage space. You have plenty more behind the seat too. So it's a small truck, but you have a lot of hidden space, which makes up for it. And at 5'10", with the front seat set at my height, I do have a good bit of space. There's cup holders in the middle. I wish there were climate vents as well. Maybe the 24 will have that. And as far as headroom, I have about an inch or so above my head. It's a little bit on the cram size. It's a mid-sized truck, so it's what you would expect, but I could ride around in the back. It's on long trips, it can get a little bit uncomfortable because of how tight it is, but it's definitely doable around the city and situations like that. Now this also has the electronic sliding rear glass, so you can open that as needed. And you do get a good bit of glass to provide a lot of light. So it's not claustrophobic for your back passengers. Now you can also lock this, of course, when you grab the door handle, it will unlock. And then we have the same design up front with all the window adjustments, side mirror adjustments, and a little bit of storage space. Now this also has a power operated driver's seat with that same design for the seats, all weather floor mats for this model. And then with the steering wheel, we have solid and perforated leather. Cruise and adaptive cruise is the stock on that far right side. There's the distance pacing, lane keeping assist. There's also Bluetooth modes for your audio. There's tuning and volume along with more Bluetooth controls. And then on this right side, all of these are for the gauge cluster. So let's fire this up. On that left side, there's the tach and engine temperature. Right side, miles per hour and fuel level. And currently in the middle, the outside temperature is fixed in the upper section with miles per hour and your distance till empty. And then you can scroll through various information just depending on what you would like to see. There's even a calm screen too. You can monitor your tire pressure along with your cruise and lane keeping assist, any messages. And then you have some technology features that you can turn on and off, even go into your settings to control all of this. So not a ton of information, but it's nice to have all that front and center. And then over on the left side of the steering wheel, this is the cargo light in the bed. We have the automatic headlights, the power outlet, along with traction control. There's more of that trim that you saw surrounding the window controls around one of the air vents. And it works its way to the infotainment system. So that entire trim piece wraps around everything in that same horseshoe shaped design, just like the DRLs and the turn signals. Now for this touchscreen system, home is on this left side where you have audio, phone, and your range. You can customize those to change them as needed. If I go into menu, there's audio, phone, apps. Projection is how you can pair your phone to the system, setup and info. There's also audio, map when you have that installed and paired. And then on the right side, there's seek and track along with phone and apps. So again, pretty simple like the gauge cluster, but it gives you everything that you need. Power and volume and tuning are also physical buttons. Now underneath that, there's another LCD screen, which will show your fan speed and your temperature. This does have dual zone. We have modes in the middle, so where you'd like the air to go, and then a few other controls on both sides of that. And then tucked in between that and the engine start stop button is the 4-wheel drive selector. So you can use that as needed. We have defrosters for the side mirrors. And then underneath that, ECT stands for electronically controlled transmission, and then power is the lower word. Basically what this is going to do is allow the RPMs to go at a higher rate. So the vehicle is not going to shift as quickly. You can use that while you're towing, which is a little bit more beneficial so the truck's not constantly shifting and you can rev it out just a little bit more. Now this is the control for that power back window. We have wireless charging, which is the pad down below, and then a few auxiliaries to charge even more electronics. There are 2 cup holders down below. You can remove this if needed, if you need a little bit more space for those drinks. And then to put this into reverse, we will just pull the shifter back where the backup camera has good graphics with the 3 lines, which are very beneficial. Drive is all the way to the back, and then you can also shift using the shifter if you need to. Manual parking brake is still installed for this Tacoma. A little bit of storage in front of 1 cup holder. And then for the center armrest, you have a good amount of space with some auxiliaries down below, even a pen holder on that underside. And then Tacoma is also stamped in the glove box where you have plenty of room for the additional info you need to place there. And then a good bit of visibility. No sunroof for this model. You can easily see over that left side as well. And then up top, along with the dome lights, there's even a sunglass holder too, which is really convenient to have. As we set off now behind the wheel for the 3rd gen Toyota Tacoma, like I mentioned earlier, this has an MSRP right around $35,000. And it's pretty interesting to see that the Tacoma has had a price tag in between the mid-20s to even the mid-$40,000 range, just depending on the trim level that you go with. But it has been like that for several years. Now, as I also mentioned earlier, this is the last year for the 3rd gen Tacoma. So if you are not interested in the 4th gen, which is the 2024, this is your last chance to get into this NA engine for the Tacoma, because the 2024 will have a completely different engine. I've made some other videos on that, so if you'd like to check those out, take a look at those, because I won't go into all of those details today. But for the Tacoma, this is a really cool truck. Now, I did own one for about 6.5 years or so. I'm not trying to be too biased towards them, but that's why I'm going with a 4th gen as well, because I do love the platform and I really do think this is a really awesome mid-sized truck. One thing, however, though, is the power plant for this Tacoma. With the NA engine, it doesn't quite have as much horsepower as some of the other competitors. So like the Colorado, even the Ranger and the Canyon. Let's throw the Ridgeline in there too, just because it's kind of in that same size-wise. So I do wish it had more power, which is what the 4th gen is going to basically do. So with it, it's still an adequate amount of power. I really didn't have any issues daily driving it, but I really like this truck. It drives great, very smooth. The TRD Sport does have a little bit different of a suspension, so it is a little bit softer for mainly out on the roads, bridge bumps, things like I just did. Some of the other trim levels do offer different types of suspension. So the TRD Off-Road is going to be a little bit stiffer than in this Sport here. And you do have some of the other cosmetic differences, of course, just depending on the trim levels as well. But for about 35 grand, it's really not all that expensive when you compare it to the other 3 or 4 that I just listed. So in the mid-size truck price bracket, they are all super competitive. So it really just boils down to either your brand loyalty, basically what can you afford based on the trim level, and then which one you think you like better, what drives the best for you. Let's give it a little bit of gas. I'm not gonna do anything too crazy, but we're up to speed. Now, I did have my Tacoma re-geared, so it reacted a little bit differently than this one did, just with the stock gearing. But, I mean, we got up to speed. It's not a sports car, so it doesn't need to be crazy fast in my opinion, but it has enough power to get up and move, to merge, and things like that. But as far as the driving experience goes, it's very comfortable and quiet. I like the seating position. I will say that I have some friends who are much taller than me, so they're well over 6 feet tall, that don't really fit well in the Tacoma. I have one who owns a Colorado because it had a lot more headroom, and then some other people just, they can't really fit in it well. And it's interesting to see that, because I've been in some of the other models, and personally I have a lot of headroom at 5'10", but of course you're over 6 feet tall, it's a little bit different. So that is one factor. I have seen people have to go away from the Tacoma because they're too tall to fit in this. And maybe on the 4th gen, the roofline could be different. It's gonna be a little bit more boxy. So maybe for you taller guys or women, you can maybe fit in the 4th gen if you wanna go back into a Tacoma and you can fit a little bit better. We'll pop it over to the manual setting now, go to 2nd gear and give it a little bit of gas. Now, the shifts aren't as responsive as you would think. Of course, it's a truck, it's not meant for quick shifting, but you can utilize this if you need to downshift and the truck's just not doing it for whatever reason, if you're towing or you want to hold a gear. So if you're off-road or some kind of slow situation like that and you don't want it to shift, that's basically the purpose for this. I honestly never used this while I was out on the road, just normal driving like I am right now in my Tacoma, because it's not as responsive as a sports car or paddle shift or something like that. But it is helpful for the purposes that it needs to be for this Tacoma. So now that we're driving the TRD Sport, mid $35,000 range, this is what it looks like to be behind the wheel. At first, when the hood scoops came out, I really wasn't a huge fan of them. I thought they were really bulky and kind of in the way. They've grown on me a little bit from the driver's seat here. It's not as bulky as I used to think. It definitely gives it a cool look from this side too. But hopefully you can tell just how quiet it is to drive this. Very smooth. And Toyotas are extremely reliable. I know people with third gen Tacomas that have hit that 200,000 mile mark already, maybe even 250. So it's a vehicle that you can put tons of miles on, and with routine maintenance, it's going to last you for a long time. That is going to wrap it up though for the last third generation Toyota Tacoma year model for this. And I'm excited for the 2024. That's gonna be a cool new truck to see out on the road. So if you like the third gen better, this is the last year to get it. Once again, a huge shout out to Carolina Auto Direct for providing this truck. Check out their website, give this video a huge thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and consider smashing that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on our daily uploads. And I will see you all in the next video.